The President of the Republic, His Excellency Paul Kagame, has reiterated that Rwandans will never again be subjected to the atrocities that were committed during the genocide against the Tutsi. The head of state made the remarks during the event to mark the start of the week of mourning and other activities of the 32nd commemoration of the 1994 genocide against the Tutsi. Olive Nete with the details.
Theonest Ndirwonsanga, a survivor from the former Cyangugu prefecture, testified that killings in this region, then part of the French-controlled zone turquoise, persisted for a prolonged period. He explained that after being defeated by the Rwandan Patriotic Army in other parts of the country, Interahamwe militias continued their attacks in this area. Ndirwonsanga concluded by expressing deep gratitude to the Inkotanyi, who rescued survivors and restored their hope, enabling them to rebuild their lives. The Minister of National Unity and Civic Engagement, Dr. Jean Damascene Bizimana, emphasized that the genocide was not spontaneous, but meticulously planned and rehearsed in different parts of the country. In his address, the head of state, His Excellency Paul Kagame, underscored that people who deny and distort the history of the genocide will not succeed, given the overwhelming evidence and testimonies available.
Those who try to deny or distort history have a difficult task, because changing a history like this one that belongs to people and reflects their true experiences is not easy, whether in the country or abroad, especially in cases where individuals attempt to distort our history based on different motives. They will face great challenges in trying to rewrite it.
He further stressed that Rwanda and its people will never again be left vulnerable to such violence, noting that the suffering endured in 1994 is a lasting lesson and a firm foundation for never again.
The Rwanda you see before you cannot die twice. Before you kill Rwanda, Rwanda will strike first. The way you see us here, we cannot die twice. Whether it is we adults or our younger generation, no one will kill them twice. It is impossible. It will not happen. We will live the way people are supposed to live, the way everyone else lives. And inevitably, we will not ask anyone for permission to live. As I have said, some people may understand this differently or try to twist it, but what I mean is exactly what I have stated. Keep it that way.
The National Mourning Week was launched at the Kigali Genocide Memorial, where more than 250,000 victims of the 1994 genocide against the Tutsi are laid to rest. The official mourning period will run until April 13th, while commemoration activities will continue nationwide over a period of 100 days.
President Paul Kagame has stressed that Rwanda cannot be silenced by international sanctions in ways that would enable those seeking to undermine its security or push the country back into the dark history of the 1994 genocide against the Tutsi. Olive Nete once more.
The issue of the FDLR, an armed group composed in part of individuals responsible for the 1994 genocide against the Tutsi, who fled to the Eastern Democratic Republic of Congo, featured prominently in the messages delivered during the event. The Minister of National Unity and Civic Engagement, Dr. Jean Damascene Bizimana, stated that the international community appears not to have fully learned from Rwanda's tragic past. He noted that genocidal ideology propagated by the FDLR has continued to affect Tutsi communities in eastern DRC for more than 3 decades. President Paul Kagame stressed that Rwanda cannot remain silent in the face of threats to its security.
When the genocidal government collapsed in July 1994, the soldiers and the militia fled across the border into DRC, forcing millions of civilians along with them. Inside the camps, they organized into what is now known as FDLR and launched a sustained cross-border insurgency against Rwanda, claiming tens of thousands more lives. This was the period known as the Abacengezi insurgency, and the western border was only fully secured by the end of the 1990s through the combined efforts of our army and the brave residents of those areas. And since then, our defensive measures have been aimed at ensuring that such attacks can never again be made across our borders. This is not a problem that should be left to Rwanda alone.
He underscored that Rwandans have made a deliberate choice to rebuild and protect their country to ensure that the atrocities of the past are never repeated.
After the genocide, Rwandans chose to rebuild our country together. With that came a promise to never let the politics of genocide take root ever again. I tell you, genocide cannot happen here again. It won't happen. Even with those noises you hear in the region of people gathering from Europe, from wherever, and meeting in Kinshasa and bringing the son of Habyarimana and relatives and others from wherever and gathering. All of that is just noise. It cannot amount to anything that will.
The president further warned that genocidal ideology in the region must be firmly addressed to prevent its continued impact. While recognizing the importance of safeguarding African sovereignty, he stressed that regional and international institutions must take timely and decisive action to protect vulnerable populations.
RDF was forged in those dramatic moments. It guides the conduct of our forces who serve abroad excuse me, in peace-building missions, earning universal respect. Indeed, no sanctions or insult from outside can ever tarnish the honor and integrity of Rwanda's defense and security forces, who are among the finest that can be found anywhere.
The head of state noted that Rwanda's defensive measures should not be misinterpreted or unfairly criticized, but rather understood in the context of ensuring national security and preventing a recurrence of past atrocities.
Across the world, at the locations that is of Rwandan embassies, Rwandans living in those countries and friends of Rwanda, various organizations and their leaders joined the country in starting the week of mourning and the 100 days of remembrance for the 32nd commemoration of the 1994 genocide against the Tutsi. In Arusha, Tanzania, remembrance activities were held and organized by the leadership of the East African community, attended by its partners, Rwandans living in Tanzania, their friends and others. The African Union, in partnership with the Embassy of the Republic of Rwanda in Ethiopia, also joined in commemorating the 32nd commemoration of the genocide against the Tutsi in Rwanda. During an event held at the headquarters in Addis Ababa, the event was marked by a walk to remember, followed by a ceremony to honor the victims of the genocide against the Tutsi by laying wreaths at the African Union Memorial dedicated to crimes against humanity. Mahmoud Ali Yusuf, chairperson of the African Union Commission, thanked Rwanda and Rwandans for being able to overcome the trauma and challenges caused by the genocide against the Tutsi and for building an exemplary country in Africa and beyond under the leadership of President Paul Kagame and good governance. Others who joined Rwanda in the 32nd commemoration of the genocide through social media include the commissions of the European Union and their partners, as well as the country of Luxembourg. In Japan, Shimada Tomoika, the parliamentary vice minister of foreign affairs of Japan, also attended the commemoration ceremony for the 32nd remembrance of the genocide against the Tutsi, organized by the Rwandan embassy in Japan, and delivered a speech on behalf of the government of Japan. In the Netherlands, there also Rwandans joined together in the 32nd commemoration of the genocide against the Tutsi in a ceremony held in the city of Amsterdam. On social media, football teams such as Arsenal from England, Paris Saint-Germain from France, and the FAR Rabat from Morocco also shared messages expressing solidarity with Rwandans in this commemoration period. Now, Rwanda's security forces serving in peacekeeping missions in the Central African Republic, South Sudan, and Mozambique have also joined other Rwandans in commemorating the genocide against the Tutsi. In Sudan's capital, Juba, the event was held at the UN Tomping camp and brought together Rwandan troops serving in the United Nations mission in South Sudan, Rwandans living in South Sudan, UN officials, representatives of the government of South Sudan, and international organizations affiliated with the United Nations. The ambassador of Rwanda to South Sudan, His Excellency Joseph Rutabana, has called on the international community to intensify efforts to pursue and punish those responsible for the genocide against the Tutsi. Speaking on behalf of the government of South Sudan, Ambassador Jimmy Gama said the genocide against the Tutsi is an important lesson for South Sudan and praised the way Rwanda has rebuilt itself from difficult times into a country marked by unity and resilience. Similar commemoration activities for the genocide against the Tutsi were also held in the city of Malakal in the Upper Nile state. Now, Rwandan troops serving under the United Nations multidimensional integrated stabilization mission in the Central African Republic and deployed in Bangui, Bria, and Bosembele, together with those in the country through bilateral cooperation between the two nations, also commemorated the 32nd anniversary of the 1994 genocide against the Tutsi. The commemoration ceremony was held at military bases in Bangui, Bria, and Bosembele, and was attended by Rwandan military commanders, soldiers from different units, MINUSCA staff, and officials of the government of the Central African Republic, including the Secretary General of the Fertit province, Malgwa Balpoad. In his remarks on behalf of the government of the Central African Republic, he said that the commemoration is an important act that ensures that the victims of the 1994 genocide against the Tutsi are not forgotten, while also helping the truth to continue being passed on. Colonel Christian Mukwesi, the director of Rwanda's Level 2 hospital operating under MINUSCA in Bria, said that the 1994 genocide against the Tutsi did not begin in April 1994, but was preceded by many years of violence, persecution, and killings targeting Tutsi. Rwanda security forces in Mozambique also joined Mozambique's security institutions, government officials, and representatives of Total Energy in commemorating the 32nd anniversary of the genocide against the Tutsi here in Rwanda. The representative of Mozambique praised the dedication shown by Rwandan troops in stopping the genocide against the Tutsi, and also commended the role of Rwandan forces. That is the role Rwandan forces continue to play in fighting terrorism in the province of Cabo Delgado in Mozambique. Now, survivors of the genocide against the Tutsi recall the words of comfort they were told by soldiers of what used to be the Rwanda Patriotic Army immediately after being rescued, when they told them to take heart, reassuring them that they were no longer going to die. President Paul Kagame has made it clear that the force he commanded could not stand by and watch the killings while foreign troops had already abandoned the country. Merdar Bashabe is the director of the Campaign Against Genocide Museum, one of the 8 museums under the Institute of National Museums of Rwanda. It is located in the Parliament building. He points out that what the RPF Inkotanyi forces did in rescuing those who were being killed during the genocide against the Tutsi embodies many values of humanity.
by Rwandans, and other people can learn lessons from this museum, specifically the values that guided the Rwandan Patriotic Army under the tutelage of President Paul Kagame, currently, who was the chairman of High Command in time of the Rwandan Patriotic Army, especially the heroism acts by defeating the genocidal forces and the sacrifice they made in time, and at the same time not forgetting the humanity they surfaced during this period of saving the lives of the targeted victims of genocide. Initially, this is not an act that one may call a simple act. Taking a decision in time and rushing to defeat the government that prepared and executed genocide in a period of 100 days is an act of heroism in itself. So these are some of the lessons people would pick out of this sacrifice, heroism, and you talk of humanity and decision-making in time.
On his part, President Paul Kagame has thanked those who showed bravery by hiding the Tutsi who were being hunted, reiterating that the RPA could not just stand aside and watch the atrocities.
That horrific reality only underscores the humanity and the courage of the Rwandans who took risk to provide hiding places for their fellow citizens. The reaction of the international community was to evacuate foreigners and withdraw most peacekeepers. If these forces had instead been supported to protect Rwandans, the killers could have been deterred and many people would still be alive. If our lives do not happen to align with someone else's interests, they are not worth saving. And so it had to be the Rwandan Patriotic Army that led the campaign against the genocide and ended it. Our deepest source of grief was always that we could not arrive earlier.
The 7th of April in 1994 marked the collapse of the hope for peace that had been sparked by the Arusha Accords, even though more than 3 months had already passed since the RPF Inkotanyi politicians who were in Kigali had been preparing for the implementation of the peace agreements. Of the news. As always, I thank you for joining us. Goodbye.